My world of music began when I was just 4 years old. My parents put me into piano lessons at this age, but it wasn't necessarily a coincidence. Me being the youngest of 4 siblings, all 3 of my older siblings also did the same exact thing. With the same teacher and everything. And yeah, that's me right there. I didn't hate piano, but I didn't necessarily love it either. I really struggled with practicing consistently, and my teacher was always on me for that. Although when I got the hang of it, it was enjoyable. I wasn't really listening to any other music at this time, but this was the beginning of my world of music. My dad was also responsible for establishing my world of music at a very young age. When he was off from work, typically on the weekend, in the morning, he would play Frank Sinatra or music by similar artists. Most of the time I'd be sleeping, so I wasn't super happy in the moment, but this was another very early exposure to music for me. I even remember my sister and I coining a term called dad music, just because we would hear it all the time. And that was pretty funny. Starting off in elementary school and throughout junior high school, honestly, I was in a school band. I played clarinet for the regular band, and it was actually really enjoyable. This was also such a foundational aspect of my world of music from a very young age. In 8th grade, I started to listen to music on my own, primarily through YouTube. I didn't have a cell phone, I didn't have Spotify, but I had a computer and an internet connection, so YouTube is what I used. While I kind of explored some of the many genres that YouTube had to offer, there was one genre in particular that really spoke out to me. This was EDM. EDM was super fun to listen to. It had a fast tempo, would always keep me full of energy, and I really liked it when I worked out. I got a smartphone in 9th grade from my parents. I was super thankful, and I was really excited to get it. Now, this phone really opened many doors in developing my world of music, solely because of Spotify and similar apps. I downloaded Spotify, and I was immediately introduced to a wide variety of music, and this was huge. This was something that was completely new to me, and I was very excited. Now, this part is a little bit ironic, but with Spotify, I was reintroduced to Sinatra, the foundational artist that I would always hear with my father in the morning when he had off from work. Now, I started to listen to him 24/7. I was hooked. And there's a couple of reasons why. One of these reasons was I really enjoyed the meaning of his songs. A lot of them were romantic, and they told a story. And that was unlike any other artist that I had been listening to up until this point. Secondly, I really liked the melody and rhythm. Sinatra had a distinctive melody and rhythm that made him unique. Andrea Bowman writes the following quote in her book, Excursions. Interpreting something we hear or make as music is a means of distinction, a way of separating something apart and often above the wider, presumably more neutral, concept of sound. The following quote resonates with me for a couple of reasons. For one, I feel like it really describes what I felt after listening to Sinatra's music. It helped me separate sound from music and helped me appreciate it in a deeper way. Now, from my parents' point of view, they were overall pretty surprised by this new obsession of mine. I don't think a lot of parents expect their 9th grade kid to fall in love with music released over 60 years ago, but that's what it was. Now, after many hours of singing in the shower, I eventually thought, maybe I could sing this on the stage, just for fun. Now, this came true when my friend one day needed a singer for the talent show, and I was like, sure. Here are a couple clips from that performance. I did Feeling Good by Michael Bublé, and I'll add in some Michael Bublé clips to show you that I kind of ripped off his performance, but I'll talk about that after.
And I'm feeling good.
And I'm feeling good.
It's a new day, it's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good.
It's a new day, it's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good.
Welcome back. The whole singing thing gave me a deeper meaning personally with music. It was almost like a new connection that I hadn't felt before. In addition, it gave me a new hobby, which, is always fun. Now, I read a quote in Music Inc. by Christopher Small that I thought was really interesting. He writes, "When performance is discussed at all, it is spoken of as if it were nothing more than a presentation, and generally an approximate and imperfect presentation at that, of the work being performed." Now, I definitely think a performance can add to a given song, but I do agree. The heart of the work itself lies in the original composition, in those original forms. I think it's really important to just remember where music originally originated from, to give credit where credit is due. So, I just want to talk about how music can be viewed from a variety of perspectives, and I kind of want to view it in a different way. I think as of recently, I started to look at music in a deeper way as opposed to just looking at it on the surface. And I think majority of that change in thinking comes with identifying with the music that I listen to. So I think there's a variety of reasons why somebody would identify with music. I think some of these reasons are distinctive lyrics, rhythm, tonality, timbre, and more. And all of these contribute to one's personal identity with music. Now, furthermore, in some cultures, I think there are some sounds and certain types of music that these cultures identify with, and these have been years and years of tradition, and so much history is behind these sounds and these songs. And I think that's a really important thing to note, and it's also something that's really special. So for me personally, I think there's one specific artist, John Mayer, that has really contributed to my identification with music. I really identified with his music. There's one song that's really primarily responsible for this. So, a quick story. Last February, I went through a breakup with a very important person. And this song basically describes a failing relationship. So right now, I'm going to write out some of the lyrics to demonstrate this. And I'll have John Mayer sing it.
It's not a silly little moment. It's not the storm before the calm. This is the deep and dying breath of this love that we've been working on. We're going down, and you can see it too. We're going down, and you know that we're doomed, my dear. We're slow dancing in a burning room.
So, I know this is super sad, but I think the music basically was super comforting to me. It was so relatable that it helped really establish a strong identity with this kind of music. And I wanted to listen to it all the time. So I just want to introduce a metaphor that I think is applicable here. And I'm going to show a quote in a second that relates to this. It that music is an iceberg. And yeah, it took me a little while to remember that this is one word, but I feel like music, a lot of it can be enjoyed on the surface. It's what you see, it's what most of society takes music as. But below the surface, there's so much more to discover, personally, in forming and developing a relationship with music. And words can't really explain it. Now I want to introduce a quote written by Pablo Vila that relates to this pretty well. The theories we use to understand the relationship between music and identity were based on conceptions that today seem to offer fewer answers than we initially believed. And he writes this in his book, Narrative, Identities, and Popular Music. Now I think this quote really relates to the metaphor I mentioned before with the iceberg, that there's so much more to identity and music than we really think, and there's more answers to be uncovered with time. Thank you for listening to my reflection on my world of music. I hope it was interesting seeing things from my perspective.
Know that I loved you so bad, I let you treat me like that. I was your willing accomplice, honey.